Trafalgar is an ultra-rare rarity destroyer from the Royal Navy and is a part of the Battle class of destroyer. She was only available during the Arose on the Hightower event in exchange for 200 Winged Lion's Crests earlier this year. Trafalgar was launched from the Swan Hunter shipyard on the 12th of January 1944, commissioned on the 23rd of July 1945, decommissioned in 1963, and was scrapped at Dalmur in 1971 after being laid up in reserve. Traf did the usual tasks a British destroyer did in the Second World War. Here are her more interesting exploits. Was commanded by Captain Anthony F. Pugsley. Took part in the fleet review for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. And accidentally rammed HMS Solbay in 1961. In her character art, Trav has a white double-breasted with gold buttons and red interior crop top jacket that has its collar turned down, black ruffle around her neck, black hipless leotard with red straps on top, and an extremely high-cut white pair of shorts with red underwear strings peeking out the top that have medals hanging off of them, white with red interior and garter belts, boots, red gloves with gold trim, sword on her left side, and white coat with shoulder pauldrons and turned-out collar. Her rigging consists of two armatures to her left and right, both having wood decks, white and gold hulls, quad torpedo launchers, dual-barreled main guns, and AA guns. To her left is a red knight that holds a spear with radio mast on top, and to her right is a blue knight with sword and AA gun pauldrons, and directly behind her is a castle. In her voice lines, voiced by Madoka Yonezawa, who also voices Ginko in Gintama, Ui Harasawa in K-On!, Maria in Strike Witches, Tamaki Tamada and Flint in Girls und Panzer, Sane Kochiya in Toho, Fairy in Grand Blue Fantasy, Proviso in Arc Knights, and Yu Olga Marie in Fate Grand Order, Traf often second guesses what she says. Again, the website that I use to get the MP3s for voice lines doesn't have them yet, and I can't be bothered to record them, so take my word for it. At level 125 with max affinity and enhancements, Traf has 2,041 HP, 133 firepower, 414 torpedo, 347 AA, 250 reload, 278 evasion, light armor, 40 speed, 228 accuracy, 77 luck, 280 anti-sub, and consumes 12 oil. Traf has 3 skills and an AOA, which focus on buffing herself and others. Traf's first skill, Upon This Blade Shall Victory Be Inscribed, at level 10, Traf buffs her own firepower and accuracy by plus 10%. When she fires her main guns, Traf alternates between firing the Heroic Will and Fearless Spirit barrages. Heroic Will unleashes a red sword shockwave that decreases the AA of enemies hit by minus 2% for 3 seconds, while Fearless Spirit unleashes a blue sword shockwave that decreases the speed of enemies hit by minus 15% for 3 seconds. Her second skill, Upon This Corpus Shall Radiance Adorn, at level 10, Trav buffs her own AA by plus 15%. When the flagship of the fleet, Traf is in, performs an arcing main gun attack, Traf heals 5% of her max HP and creates a luminous domain on the battlefield. Enemies within the domain have minus 10% evasion rate and deal minus 15% damage to Traf for 10 seconds. Her third skill, By This Power Shall Duty Be Done, at level 10, Traf buffs her main gun efficiency by plus 15%. She also increases all other Royal Navy ships in the same fleet as her firepower, torpedo, and aviation by plus 10%. While Traf is afloat and when a fleet that she isn't in starts a battle, the Royal Navy ships in that fleet gain plus 10% firepower, torpedo, and AA. The recommended equipment for Traf is either the single 113mm QF Mark IV, single 76mm 3-inch 50 caliber gun, or single 120mm QF Mark IX, as all have extremely high rates of fire, which allow Traf to constantly proc her S1's barrages. If you want the barrages procced more often, the single 76mm is the best option because of its very high reload rate. If you want more damage from the main gun, choose the single 113mm. The 533mm improved quad magnetic torpedo mount, since it's the best homing torpedoes. Twin 76mm RF Mark 37 gun mount, due to it being the best general use AA gun for Vanguard ships. The repair toolkit and bubbly boily chef, or any other equipment that passively heals and or boosts HP. And the dual swords for a buff towards firepower and evasion. Unsurprisingly for an ultra-rare ship, Trafalgar's really good, especially in a Royal Navy fleet with battleships both against mobs and bosses. All of her stats are high, the efficiency for equips are great, having 2 torpedo and AA salvos, and her skills are extremely useful, with all 3 giving her a stat buff and debuffing enemies, buffing herself, or buffing allies. Starting with her S1, the most useful of her skills, Trafalgar, if you have her equipped with a very quick-firing main gun, will practically always be debuffing enemies with either -2% AA or -15% movement speed, since those debuffs are launched every time she fires her main gun. The -15% movement speed is especially good since it makes enemies easier to hit. Her S2 heals herself and creates an AoE debuff zone for enemies that makes them easier to hit while inside of it, and deals less damage towards her. And lastly, her S3 buffs Royal Navy ships in her and every other fleet. Despite being a UR ship, she's not without her drawbacks. The debuffs from her S1 only last for 3 seconds, and the AA debuff is a mere -2%. The debuff AoE zone in her S2 only reduces damage dealt to Trafalgar and no one else. As an ultra-rare ship, she's extremely expensive to limit break and level. And lastly, since her event just passed in, I think it was May, you won't be seeing her again until the rerun of her event, which is probably a year, maybe 2 down the line. Regardless, she's a UR ship, and therefore a great investment and well worth the time to raise, and get her skills up. That is, if you have her and the resources, or don't mind waiting. Thank you for watching. Please follow my Twitter and Blue Sky for updates, and please check out my other Arknights and Girls Frontline videos as well.